Hey everyone, Usul here, or if you want, you can just call me Joe. Glad you can make it, and I know it's been a while, but I will say Fluoroquinolone Toxicity just sucks. Spent a lot of time really tired, really fatigued, in a lot of pain. See, there's a lot that's been going on. I went and got another neuropsych test like I talked about last time, and well, lo and behold, yeah, I'm still autistic. Even though there are apparently some people out there who think that you can outgrow it, but no, I'm still there. They did say there were some things that were odd, but it never occurred to say that those oddities might be because of the fluoroquinolone toxicity, which I don't understand how that works, but it is what it is. I did finally start going to pain clinic locally recently, so there's been some changes with my medicine. I'm gonna start working off the Cymbalta and try other things for the always there constant hurt, which has made the last couple of weeks, as I've been tapering down that Cymbalta, kind of uncomfortable. Actually, it's taken me a few weeks just to get to where I'm feeling okay enough to try to record. I also learned an interesting little thing that I didn't know was not normal, and it's a little thing referred to as either not having a mind's eye, or as the new term that it has now, aphantasia. Essentially, I don't see pictures in my head. Everything's sounds. So if I'm reading a book, I'm not seeing or imagining what's going on. I'm just hearing a voice in my head telling a tale, reading the words out loud, but in my head. I know it's kind of weird for some people to think of, but yeah, when I close my eyes, the only thing I see is the inside of my eyelids. There are no pictures. There is nothing there. It is interesting to discover that that is actually a condition that's known about, although apparently it's only recently that they've discovered that it can just happen naturally. I used to think that it was a brain injury, but there are more and more people who are coming out as having always been this way. And let's see, what other new things? My foot is still pretty numb and dragging on the floor, my right foot. I did slip and smashed my toe a while back, bad enough that I lost a toenail, and it has grown back, and the toe is still a source of problem though. It's I can feel pain and discomfort deep, but there's no sensation on the skin, and the various neurologists that I've seen all say that it's pretty much in my head, which they're trying to say convergence disorder, which, to them that means that there's no nerve issues, there's no nothing. It's just that I'm making it up, kind of almost is what it feels like they're trying to say to me. Although I've had one of my physical therapists say that it's not as much that thought to be that way anymore as the doctors are pushing, but that it's just more of a disconnect. But I don't know. I just know that I can't move that foot, and it's numb, and I can't move the toes, and we'll just take it one day at a time and go from there. But that's about the unpleasant stuff and the horrible stuff and the woe is me stuff, and let's just talk about fun little tidbit from my childhood. I've always been fan of anything science fiction-y. I think I've been watching Star Trek for as long as I can remember. Although it was quite a long time before I saw it in color. Even when I was a kid, color TVs weren't that common yet. But because of that, when there was this guy in the 70s that was trying to date my mom, and so I was about, depending on exactly, I don't remember the exact date, but I just remember that it was very, very cold. It was sometime near my birthday, but I don't remember if it was November, December of 76, or if it was January, February of 77, but I just remember it was very, very cold, and this guy had gotten tickets to a special screening of this big movie that was coming out, and he got 3 tickets to I think he was trying to play the get the kid to like me card. Although I will say that going to the movie is the only time I remember seeing him, so he didn't get, it wasn't successful, but we went to this movie, and I know for sure that it was the sneak peek, the first edit of the film, because again, I remember very clearly that it was very, very cold, and there's no way that it could have been as cold as I remember it being, and it be in May, which is when the movie actually released. And we went to the movie, went to see it, and it was amazing. The movie started, I remember only being able to read some of the words that were scrolling at the beginning, although, part of it's because it was just going so fast. Part of it was because I think there were probably some words there I just didn't know yet. But it got through to the end, and then that big ship came by, and then there were the first laser shots, and the little kid who never sat still didn't move until the end of the movie. I sat there, I was glued, and in case you haven't guessed, yes, it was Star Wars, the very first one. I'm sure that the dates kind of gave it away, at least I'm hoping. But I remember seeing the movie. There are some things that are just so clear that when I saw the movie again later, I was very confused, because as a little kid I didn't know that between when I saw the movie and when it was really released later, I didn't even know that I was seeing a movie that wasn't released yet, that things were going to be changed. So I do want to someday say to George Lucas, regardless of what the results were, what things say, the 4-year-old kid who could not sit still sat still. The big scene did not slow it down for me to lose interest, and I just kept engrossed. As an adult, I understood why that scene didn't go back in, but one thing that I do want to say that still, I wish that the longer scene with Red Leader had been put back in rather than the shorter version, because the longer version, the one that I remember clearly, made it, even for a 4-year-old kid, more believable that this kid from nowhere that no one really knows very well was not only put in the cockpit of a really expensive fighter ship, but was put in charge of a flight group out of nowhere. And it definitely could not have been based on the new guy saying, he's actually pretty good. Because you got to remember, at the beginning of the movie, Biggs was saying, I'm about to leave to go join the Rebel Alliance. So this Death Star run had to have been his first real battle. And yet, Luke was put in charge of one of the bombing run flight groups. Well, one thing that, as a 4-year-old, 5-year-old kid, that made that make sense to me was when Red Leader, which is now not in the movie, said to Luke, I flew with your father in the Clone Wars. If you're half the pilot he is, you're the best man I've got. That right there for one thing, as someone who at the time my father was absent, so the hearing him come across another person who had known his father, it actually hit my feels when Red Leader didn't make it. Almost as much as Biggs, because it's like he lost someone who could have told him more about his father. Again, that's like 2 people now that he's lost who he might have been willing to tell him more about who his father really was, as opposed to the lies he was getting from his uncle. And at the same time, right after that, then he loses his childhood best friend. But because of who he is, because of being basically the son of Anakin Skywalker, the son of, you know, someone who the first time he got in a starfire blew up a big, you know, station that, you know, turned the tide of a battle. And he was able to get the job done. But he wouldn't have been put in that position by someone who didn't know the name Skywalker, someone who did not know who he was, who his father was, and have been able to look at him and say, you know, if you're anything like your father, you know, you need to be here, you need to do this thing. And it would make sense on why Luke was leading the group and one of his wingmen was actually the number 2 of the squad. Wedge. Red 2. He was number 2. He was the second guy there. You know, he should have been leading that run based on experience and position. But that one little piece is still kind of missing. And it kind of feels like, as I watch the new version, I mean, even the special edition that has the, are you sure you can handle this? That follow-on of, well, as I said earlier, that follow-on of, well, if you're half the pilot your father was, you know, you're the best I've got. That explains things way better than the current of really the only person speaking up for him is Biggs, his friend, who is also relatively new. And even seeing the newer movies and, you know, learning that, you know, most of the soldiers for the Republic were actually the clones. In the back of my mind, I find myself still thinking that either Red Leader was someone like one of the younger Naboo pilots in Phantom Menace, or he was someone who was just in a local defense force somewhere where Anakin and the 501st were sent to, you know, help them, assist them, save them from something or other at some point during the war. And that's where this guy met Anakin Skywalker, and that he would not have been someone who would have known that Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker were the same person. He probably thought that Anakin died with all of the rest of the Jedi. Yeah, if it was it's a great movie. I still sometimes when I watch any of the later edits of the film, I still sometimes hear those pieces that were edited out where they're supposed to be. They just with some things it just always feels just a little off. But I have a feeling that because of the edits and because of the, you know, what people were saying who watched that same version with me, that being someone who thinks that, to me, that's like the best version of the film, I'm probably probably alone in that thought. But yeah, again, 4-year-old, 5-year-old autistic kid who like the number one phrase from my mom growing up was, "Can you just sit still for 5 minutes?" And the answer was always no, except during that movie. I was glued to my seat, glued to the screen for the entire length of the movie. It was an interesting little, we did end up, my mom and I, we watched the other two, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, at that same theater. We did not see early versions of those. But we did go to the same theater for all of them. Because yeah, that theater's not around anymore either. But saw the movie, it was great. I don't know if I will, talk about any of the other Star Wars movies specifically. Maybe not. But there's my fun story. I'm gonna try to throw in bits like that in any future videos that I do. But noticing that I've been rambling on for a while, so I think I will go ahead and end with that. Other than another thing I forgot. My mind got to the point where I did stop trying to do school. I just every time I came across something that was new material, it wasn't a rehash of something that I already knew, I couldn't commit it to memory. I could not remember the materials that I needed to get through the test successfully. But I talked with my wife, and we're taking this as an opportunity for me to finally do the thing that I've wanted to do pretty much my entire life. And I'm gonna write. I've gotten started on redoing a story that I've been kind of working on off and on since middle school. I think like the very first bits of this on paper, I was in the 8th grade, so this is something I've been working on for a really long time. And I finally, got the map together. It's up on my Patreon. So if you join that, you can see the map. I'm working on, getting things written. I've got probably about 1.5 chapters done so far as a first draft, and actually I haven't been able to do really much of any writing for the last few weeks because the med changes have made it really hard to think or focus, and because we tried something that just did not work well. But I'm going to keep working on this, try to get it done. And I may talk about it periodically here in the videos, but I'm going to try to put more about it, share more about it as I work on it on my Patreon. If you're interested, there will be a link in the description. Also, if you want to follow any more of these, please, subscribe so that you'll know when I put more up. I'm going to try to do it a little more regularly again. But with that, I think I will see y'all later.